Hey gang, Kevin here, Life22. I hope the audio quality on the intro has worked itself out. I just modified that down, so hopefully on your end you can hear that and it's not so brutal. So starting with that, another one of those great videos where we are going to go into reviewing J.Whitcher. So before without any ado, here we gizzle. All right, so this is the last J.Whitcher video. Then we'll get into a controversy that got sparked at one of the school board meetings prior to them starting to film them and put them out on the web. But we'll get into that controversy, and if anybody has, I'll get into it. So we'll do that on the next video. And then we've got a book review, and then we're going to promote a cause. So we got a bunch of videos coming out today.
As a nation, they will not be able to implement what they want to implement here.
Let's start that over, sorry.
We stay unified as a nation, they will not be able to implement what they want to implement here. The socialist agenda will not get in. Amen. The Marxists will not succeed. It will fail. But we have to be united as a nation.
So, don't know what's controversial there. I literally say that every day. I think that multiple times a day. Every time I hear crap that happens, socialism is what happened in Russia in like the 1920s, and then by the 30s and 40s, they instantaneously switched over to communism, and then people were put into slave labor camps and ousted. Their own family members, did not even want to ask questions where they went because they didn't want to be sent to the gulags as well. And getting into that, I recommend every single person on this planet read The Gulag Archipelagos by Alexander Solzhenitsyn. There are 3 volumes, and then there is a summary version audible by his son. And all 3 versions are 27 and a half hours for the first one, 29 and a half hours for the second volume, and the third volume is about 16 and a half hours, and then I believe it's 16 and a half hours for the summary. I haven't done the summary by his son yet, or the summary narrated by his son, but that I will review. I will listen to that and review it as one of my books coming up. But it goes into what socialism and communism turn into every single time, and it's without fail. Will it be horrible? It is based on the idea that utopia will be amazing and the world is perfect and blah blah, and it's not perfect because we're humans and we're not perfect. And so what happens is intellectuals tried to create it thinking it was great, and out of their stubbornness to be proven that they're wrong, that's what happened. So anyways, socialism, we got to stay united as a country, as Americans, as members of the Republic, and as a capitalist-based society for economics. We have to stand together and not let this crap happen. So
We want to be unified across race, religion, sexuality. We want to cross those bridges and unite together. And you take the need for no manly government. That's right. Because you have the government of God that's covering you.
okay, so we unite as people on sexuality, race, religion. He just said that. I don't know what the controversy is on that one. And then we should have no need for government? Right. If all men were angels, there would be no need for government. But men aren't angels, right? That was Thomas Jefferson. Anyways, if all men were angels, there would be no need for government. The problem is the government's there to make sure we don't kill one another and create some sort of an order. And obviously what he's saying is that, his religion does that for him, so he has no need for government. And most of us don't really, and the problem is every day the government gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and it doesn't have to be. Literally, the government just has to enforce the Constitution of the United States and kind of stay the hell out of it. We don't need all of these government programs. We don't. That's it. We're self-sufficient. The government is not even supposed to be handling any of the infrastructure and crap like that. It should just be, it's on us, right? Because people think too much of there's us and the government. No, the government is like, you go to your house and you have a refrigerator. Does your refrigerator handle all the problems in your house? No, it's one component, one small component that really has no power other than it keeps your food. It's got a vital role, but it does not run the show. We, the people in the house, run the show. And the different parts of government are just different appliances, and we can remove them at any time. And that's really what, I mean, that's not what he's saying here, but it follows by a similar guideline. So, anyways, let's continue on.
It's not a sprint for these the Marxists to get into our society. So what they do is they come after our kids. They steal things from them. They kill our kids. You think about the southern border and the amount of drugs that are coming across the border, and our government.
So to clarify, they are infiltrating the Marxists and socialists have infiltrated our school systems. They are converting our kids to Marxist, socialists, communists. That is what's happening. It tried to happen in the 1960s because the Marxists realized that they couldn't attack us on a class system and overthrow our government like they did Russia and other countries and China. What they did was they said, well, we can get the Americans on race. And so they created a class. They didn't have a class. We didn't have a class system, but we had a race system. And they exploited that instead of how it would naturally worked its way out. And Martin Luther King rejected that ideology that they could do that. And what happened is the Americans agreed with him and said, "Hey, yeah, let's unite on race." And the Marxists kind of fucked themselves with the Civil Rights Union and the Civil Rights Movement. They screwed up and didn't get their foothold in because the American spirit was too strong. So they regrouped, they infiltrated the schools, and just like Animal Farm by George Orwell, they have taken our puppies away and retrained them using thought. They have restructured their teachings, and now our kids are more and more leaning towards socialism and communism, and that's where we strive to have a problem here. And that's why he's saying, let's fight. Now, when he says that they kill our kids, he's referring, I believe, to his own child died of a drug overdose, which is a horrible thing for any parent to go through. And I can only imagine what he had to go through as a human being that had to lose a child. It is a horrible thing. And they're letting people in the southern border, and the cartel are human smuggling, and they are a traffic for drug flow into this country. They've seized more fentanyl in the last couple months that could kill the world, I think 378,000 times over, because of how little fentanyl you need in your system at one time to kill you. And it's like a pound can kill like 365,000 people or something. It's a ridiculous number because it's like a tenth of a gram can stop a human heart. So if you were to just that's a lot of fentanyl to be putting in people's just in capture. So I get what he's getting at here. He's not talking about we need to kill people's children or that the leftists are killing them. Not going that extreme. Our children are dying a little bit inside when you can't bring them back over and they end up eating themselves alive in the thought of communism because it's just not practical.
Government's allowing to happen. That is directly an attack against our children. We've been hit by it. The fentanyl our son died on was from China. How do you know? By the bags, the markings on the bags. There's intention, it's intentional, and it's being allowed by the government. Our kids are being attacked in the womb by abortion. And abortion has become just like birth control. Social media is killing our kids.
So I agree with him on abortion. Can't argue there. There's nothing. I mean, life starts at conception, not at entrance into the world outside of the womb. And then social media is damaging our children. That's true. What is it? Instagram had a study. Facebook did a study on Instagram or so, one of those the social media apps that it's higher risk of creating depression and suicide amongst young girls. So that is hurting them.
School curriculum is killing our kids.
Yes, right.
Yeah.
There's perverted teachings that are coming into the classroom, such as critical race theory. Honestly, folks, if we teach kids to be racist, they will become racist.
So critical race theory is not taught in our schools, right? That's the big thing, right? The entire left says, oh, hey, they're not teaching critical race theory in the schools. We are not teaching critical race theory in the schools, and all the people on the right are going, no, they're teaching critical race theory in the schools. They said they were. No, they're not teaching it, and that's where they're double back, and they can prove that they're not teaching it in the school, because teaching critical race theory would mean that they are explaining to your kids what critical race theory is. So when they say they're not teaching it, they are correct. Now, are their teaching methods influenced? And one of the major building blocks, are they applying critical race theory on how they're teaching your children? Yes. And that is where they are teaching critical race theory in the school. They are not teaching it. They are applying it to how they teach. And so every topic is based on race. It's Ibram X. Kendi's magic formula for how to teach kids, right? A little bit of critical race theory, a little bit of racism. That's what it is. And it's all racist because essentially you're dividing people based on race, and that's racism. Regardless if it's the majority, right? You push everybody towards the minority, then the minority becomes the ruling class. That's still racism. That's still racism. It's nonsense. It's always nonsense. But anyways, can't disagree with them there.
And we teach them. There's a confusion between what equity and equitable is, or equity and equality. That's better stated that way. We put vaccines in them like they're human pincushions. I'm not anti-vaccine. I've had 5. The kids are getting like 70, 72 now. And now they're pushing for the COVID one. Do not allow your child. Don't be first in line for that for your kids.
Right. That's right.
They're pushing sexuality on our young children.
So, okay. So, yeah, I don't think kids need to be vaccinated because kids are... What was the statistic I heard the other day? Friday, there was a statistic that came out. Or Thursday. It was kids without underlying health problems. So, like, they weren't already in, like, the ICU or weren't already, like, extremely susceptible to, like, a kid, the kid you sneeze in front of, just the sneeze could cripple their bones. Like, those are the kids that were dying. So, out of all the kids that had normal functioning children with no underlying major health problems, 20 or less died in the United States during the whole COVID pandemic. There was more kids than that. I think it was 600 kids died, but they were all a huge, like they had major underlying health problems. Kids with, kids that were born with like half a lung and, things like that. Those are the kids that are dying. Well, guess what? Yeah, that's expected. That's like without sickle cell anemia. Is it? Yeah, sickle cell anemia, where the kids fall down and they scrape their leg and they bleed to death because their blood doesn't clot. Like, yeah, you don't take that kid to the playground where you keep a good eye on them and you make sure you have the medication that clots their blood, some styptic powder or something that helps coagulate the blood and creates clots. That's a very good. Anyways, that's all right. So, yeah, I'm not down for that.
They are not mentally prepared to deal with some of these things that are being put into their world. And they've taken religion, and I'm talking all religions, out of the schools. But specifically Christianity, they've taken out of the schools. They've taken prayer out of the schools. They're taking out holidays. But I get all confused because I know that Wiccans have a holiday called Halloween, and the schools will go out and they'll celebrate Halloween. It's a religion. Why is it good for them and they can have their day, but we can't celebrate Christmas? Double standards. I even heard that in California they're starting to allow these immigrants from the Middle East time to pray in their schools. I have no problem if the Eastern religions they want to pray, and that's part of who they are. I honor that and I respect that. But Christians should be able to pray in school also.
See?
You need to
It's not being
question
discriminatory.
everything that is put in front of them. You must know their passwords. You must check their history. You must control the amount of time the kids are on technology. Question their schoolwork. Read the books that they are reading. Christians also have the right to go and stand in front of the Board of Education and tell them the truth about Jesus Christ. And tell them that they do not want this crap taught to their children. How many children do you hear of? You raise them up in the church, they go to college and they come back different. You say, what happened?
Not disagreeing here.
Well, while you were spending time with your kids, 4 or 5 hours you got, the school had 7. And I love school.
This is
I love school. I love kids.
Whoever is editing this is grasping at straws. This is like he is talking about legitimate issues that every American should be worrying about. Like, if anything, I actually think I agree with J.Whitcher more so by watching all these videos that this person edited than before. This person who's editing these videos must be J.Whitcher's PR person. I can't believe that he found a pro bono PR person to put all of his points together and convince people that J.Whitcher's a great person. Because other than a lot of his religious beliefs, which I don't sign on for, I'm not a huge Christian. I'm not. I'm not a huge supporter of a lot of these things based on like what he's doing here. But I don't disagree with him on a lot of the topics. How he gets to them, I might differ, but we end up at the same place. And not the way that Kamala Harris wants us to end up at the same place. It's not about where you start. It's all about equity, where we all end up. We all have to end up together. We all win the race. We all cross the finish line right at the same time. No, that's not how it works. But anyways, he's got a free PR person here. That's what this is, because there is nothing that he is saying that I should even be closely concerned about. If J.Whitcher's up there telling the school board what certain teachers and certain ideologies from administrators are going on and trying to corrupt our kids, and what the government's trying to do, he's making my life easier as a parent because I don't have to do that. Take the masks off our kids. Don't force vaccinations on kids who are not even likely to die. They are way more likely to die of the flu or a cold.
I love educating them. I love empowering them. But we need to empower them with the truth. We allowed our schools to walk away from Christianity. You must teach your children what God calls sin, because the world has whitewashed it. You also must have a conscience about who you vote for. Do they support what God calls truth, and will they fight against what God calls sin? Listen to this carefully, especially online. You should never vote by party. Vote by the Bible. I want to switch right now. I think it's time for miracles. I call cleansing to come to the arteries. I call blockages. I command them to dissolve in the name of Jesus. I call for a rebuild of the left ventricle of the heart, where the muscle is broken down. I call for it to be supernaturally rebuilt right now in Jesus' mighty name.
Okay, so that was the last J.Whitcher review video on the ones that got posted online against him. I'm really not seeing it, folks. I don't see what the big hullabaloo is. Actually, this one sold me on Joel more than any of the other videos. Yeah, I don't know what the big deal is. And just under 20 minutes, we'll be back shortly with another video. Thanks. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and send us your lovely hate mail and tell us how much you hate us.